sign a couple autographs so I can eat my meals for free. I have the quesadilla. I'm gonna dress my ass with the latest fashion, get a front door key to the Playboy mansion, gonna date a centerfold that loves to blow my money for me. So how you gonna do it? I'm gonna trade this life for fortune and fame. I'd even cut my hair and change my name, cause we all just wanna be big rock stars and live in hilltop houses driving 15 cars. The girls come easy and the drugs come cheap. Well, I'll stay skinny cause we just won't eat, and we'll hang out in the coolest bars and the VIP with the movie stars. Every good gold digger's gonna wind up there, every playboy bunny with the bleached blonde hair, and we'll hide out in the private rooms with the latest dictionary of today's zoo. They'll get you anything with that evil smile. Everybody's got a drug dealer on speed dial. Well, hey, I wanna be a rock star. I'm gonna sing those songs that offend the senses, gonna pop my pills from a best dispenser, get washed up singers writing all my songs, lip sync them every night so I don't get them wrong. Well, we all just wanna be big rock stars and live in hilltop houses driving 15 cars. The girls come easy and the drugs come cheap. We'll all stay skinny cause we just won't eat, and we'll hang out in the coolest bars.
All right, good evening. Welcome aboard. I hate to cut Nickelback off on you, but I have been ready for a while. CBS thinking about its putt on hole 16 currently. I only played 9 today. It was good. It was a good little round as well. Good little round today, but welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me. Welcome to the start of the week. Stock market on its way to close in 25 minutes. Give it all round up of the action, a little debrief. What's up with Powell? I don't know, man. You tell me. You tell me. Like I said, been pounding me good today. Well, I mean, pounded me good. He pounded me once. Basically, I'm trying to short the top of the indexes, and he forced me to close once, and then I re-shorted, and as soon as I shorted, he pumped the market. So we're still in the short. I'm just like, I think the tide might be turning. You know, I think he's looking tired. I think this could be it. This could be the redemption. Price action today has been a horror show. Absolute horror show. Stop loss is always movable. Yeah. Let's take a look at where we've been today. You can even see from like the 15-minute price action, just a rack, just a complete rack. US Open, sell-off, immediate retrace, makes a high, retrace again. You get down to the lower time frames and it's even more clown-like. Okay, this is just terrible, terrible price action. One's position for the long term, 3 to 6 months. Good Lord. Good Lord. Crypto is a wild space, huh? That's the long term. Jesus. So we'll begin to dissect and kind of think about where we are. Now, I am actually going to start with the indexes because, like I said, I've been trying to short the top of the indexes, or what I believe to be the top of the indexes. I think that we're getting into a position where these are looking like they're going to correct. And I'll kind of give the reason for that, but I'll also give the lovely hedge caveat to make sure that I can never be wrong, and cover both sides of this. Now, we can take SPX here. We can take the NASDAQ. It's exactly the same. What we've basically got through here now is we've got this like long grind up. It's not doing anything. It's shitty price action. It's grinding around. It's pissing about basically. And what we keep on doing is we keep on taking a high and rejecting very aggressively. Okay, so like the micro time frame stuff in here, we take some highs, we reject. We move up again, we take some highs, we reject. We move up, we take some highs, we reject. All right, we take some highs, we reject. It's just been consistent. Now, the other thing that we've got through here is that we've got this. So you can see that there is a clear divergence between what's going on in the price action here compared to what's going on in terms of momentum. So we're seeing that real stalling of momentum. Now we get to have a crossover in this, which is when we expect kind of the more aggression side of things to kind of come in and develop. And basically you see exactly the same on the RSI, which is actually relatively unusual over this span of time, where even the RSI is consistently making lower highs through here. Now, there are two interpretations for this price action. The first of those is very simply that this is weak and that eventually this will undo. And obviously we would look to be on the short side of that, which is the way that I'm taking this. The other side of this is that basically this is like one of those patches that we've seen on BTC historically, where we grind up like this, and actually this move actually ends with a more explosive move to the upside, not the downside. Right? So this is essentially just a slow and controlled grind up, and this ends with higher prices. Right? And so I told you I'd do the nice hedging caveat for you there. My interpretation of this is that I want to short it, and it's only my interpretation because of what's been happening during this. More typically, you would see this style of structure if this was reversed, okay? If this was actually the price action that had gone like this, right, into this, that would be more likely that this situation would expand to the upside. When it comes from this, I think it's more likely it resolves back down. Right, so that, again, just plays into my thinking through here in terms of wanting to be short on the indexes. Now, we've had pretty schizo PA when it comes to the indexes as well today. You know, crypto hasn't been the only one that has been responding in this way. We've been led by these markets quite clearly today as well. Very happy in my NASDAQ short to kick off the open. Looked great. Kind of tweeted to be like, yeah, well, message in the Haven to say everything looks great. Right, got up here. Said, got to close the position. It's way too strong. I think it's going to impulse to the upside now. Straight back down here. Decided, fuck you, Jerome. I'm going to short again. Right, and here we are still in that short position now. Right, just on the NASDAQ, not this. Same price action. This market is also now, from a higher time frame perspective, getting towards kind of that midpoint here. So that reset in terms of the price action. We've seen that aggression, we've seen that recovery, and we're getting to the point in which a lot of the RSIs are resetting, and we're starting to see that weakness develop on the lower time frame. So I think that we're approaching, you know, essentially a potential topping region for the indexes here. And then when you take a look at like stocks individually and stuff like Apple, you get like a lot of stuff is now doing gap fills now. So we've also done all of the gap fill stuff. We're underneath resistances still on a lot of markets, like Coinbase is a very good example. You know, very good short opportunity potential underneath 200 for Coinbase. We got other stuff like Tesla, which is still kind of hanging around under 200, and again is an important level for it through 200s. So lots of markets in this position where they're essentially either retesting resistances or consolidating under the resistances after breaking down through them. So I'm hoping that these markets end up puking. And then what does that mean for crypto? Well, we've kind of seen like this mixed bag when it comes to crypto. We've seen kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly today, and ETH being the prime example of that. So we'll start off there. The ETH price action has been pretty wild in terms of what we've seen, as you can see from all my markings on here on what we've got. ETH has been very strong through here. It had a very good sell-off and flush out down here. Right? Basically just like tap back into this origin zone down here, little resistance area on the 15-minute, really good place to pick up some of the bids. Moves into the fresh high, moves into the 2700 resistance spot. You can see it here on the 15-minute. Right, so it moves into here. And now looks as though it's in the process of potentially rejecting again. This price action is pretty hard to kind of, analyze to any decent degree. Because I don't know which way this is going to break, what it's going to do, how it's going to resolve. The discussions in the thread today, well, it's actually a long post now, probably from Twitter perspective. The discussion today is really about where ETH is from a technical perspective, but also from a psychological perspective, from the market participant perspective. Higher time frames, we know that this did a pretty decent job in terms of holding 2,500. That's the area that we want to see ETH hold up at. It's been a very significant point for ETH previously, and we'd like to see ETH hold up here. Right? We've also crossed over the AO onto the negative side, which means that hopefully there's now a positive response with the hold of support. Nice potential spot buy or trade to the upside. 3-day, exactly the same situation. Managed to get that hold. Is trading above that area now. Looks pretty decent. Lower time frame, kind of irrelevant as part of the discussions, although we clearly have a sign of bullish momentum if 2700 breaks. That area right now is the sticking point for ETH. Cannot get through 2700 as it stands. That's the pinch point for this market right now. Above 2700, I think this is probably an easy trade to 2900. So basically, I think that if this market goes, I think that it probably does this move, right, pretty easily. Right? I think it gets up to here, not a problem. And then we see from there. The higher time frame for ETH, simply speaking, is at a very, very good point. It's at a simple, bullish risk-reward point at 2,500 on the higher time frame. The point of the long post was it's down to you if you want to hold ETH, because, look, we all know it's been an underperformer, and I'm certainly not here to try and convince you to hold ETH. I don't really give a shit what you choose to hold. If you want to hold ETH, then the consideration you need to make is knowing that it has been a serial underperformer, right, for the last year, and whether or not you would want to hold ETH versus holding other markets, right, which may be more beneficial to be holding. There's also a really interesting point in the dynamic between Sol and ETH. Okay, and I always compare those two because the participants are kind of, they enjoy fighting with each other about which of their nerdy blockchains are the superior one. Sol holders, Sol maxis, very confident. Like, very confident in Sol. Sol looks great. Higher time frame looks very good for Sol. Better than ETH in a way from that higher time frame perspective, despite the fact it got hit pretty hard yesterday. ETH, the complete opposite. Right? Psychologically in absolute ruin because of what's been going on with the price action. They've been beat down by Sol time and time again. Can't catch a rally. When they do catch a rally, it undoes everything. When they do get an ETF announced, we do minus 40% from it, right? Like, there's so many things that have just battered ETH holders time and time again. You also have like extra levels and layers to that process as well, because not only is ETH affected those who hold ETH, it's also affected those that trade ETH. So the people that have traded ETH have found ETH a particularly tough market to trade because we're always in anticipation of this upside that is never really delivered. So what we've got is this very painful situation in which Sol side of things are very comfortable. ETH side of things are not comfortable at all. And we also have this like nice point of the neutral people, right? People like me that are in there, it like don't really care about, the kind of having a strong opinion on either of them independently, that just want to trade them or hold different things, right? You have this like nice piece in the middle where even those people who are in a neutral stance believe that Sol is the better holding market. And factually, they're correct. Factually, that is absolutely the right logic. But what I mean by that is there are a lot of discussions about buying Sol on this dip and not a lot of discussions about buying ETH, right? It's as though like the resting the sidelined, the traders want to move into Sol and not ETH. Right? Because again, it was like, give me a pullback on Sol, give me a pullback on Sol, not necessarily give me anything on ETH. So I also think that like Sol dominates the attention from those people that are in the middle, that don't really care about either side, but are just looking for markets to trade. Sol is the better trading option. So I just think you've got a really nice kind of environment for ETH to hopefully do well. Now, if the index is top here, based on that reduction in momentum that I've been talking about, then ETH isn't going to trade higher at this point in time. Okay, if the indexes are saying that's enough here, and we go down, whether or not that's going to be a fresh low, whether or not that's going to be a higher low, but with some attack on the downside, then like this is it, capped for ETH for now, and then we're back into the holding 2500 discussions. We're back into the holding 135 discussions for Sol. Otherwise, simplicity perspective, weekly levels, 3-day levels, lower time frame price action, psychological conditions, the way that the market participants are thinking about ETH and Sol, I think it still makes ETH a very attractive potential trade from this region. And then you've also got the situation where you have actually like a lot of ETH things doing quite well, right? RV is doing okay. Higher time frame looks pretty good. CRV is in a very, very strong position from an ETH perspective as well. 23% up on the day, has been trading higher. CRV in a very good position as well. So you've actually seen a lot of ETH markets, ETH beta markets that have been performing very, very well. And again, as we've come to expect, they're outperforming ETH, right? That's what we have come to know and expect from what goes on here. But they're outperforming ETH, but they do have strength behind them. Some of the better performing markets today are tied to ETH. Now, this move, this process for ETH isn't going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen kind of, just all of a sudden it's going to be, the market everyone wants to trade. But everybody in this space is very, very fickle. So it doesn't really matter what has come before for ETH. All that matters is green candles. And that's the way it should be, right? Like if the market starts going heavily green, get involved with it. And it doesn't matter about what's been the prior. If the market starts turning very strongly green, you want to ride with it. And all it's going to take to kind of get people posting the I told you so's, the, you dumb fucks, you didn't believe that the ETF was going to pump ETH, now look at this, right? Like all of that sort of stuff will come out very quickly. It will take 24 hours, one good daily candle, and suddenly everybody's going to be talking about how dumb everybody was for not thinking ETH was going to pump at some point. And we've already seen that on multiple occasions previously, like moves like this, moves that we saw off the last lows as well. It's like a classic scenario. So that's really the overview to ETH and kind of the most detail I can put into it while trying to keep it relatively simple and, not over-egg it. CBS is juiced up. Must have golf scratch today. Not quite, sir. Not quite. Can you go over your CRV entry a little bit? Really, it's just the 3-day divergence. I was talking about this on on Twitter and obviously in the Haven as well, we did a lot of discussion around this. So I was buying spot CRV actually on the sell-off with the assumption that we would get the hold down here of the triple divergence. And we've discussed this a bit on stream because it's all about like asset selection. And I remember Davey in the last stream was kind of like quizzing me on like, well, why are you buying CRV? Basically, this is like all-time lows. It's a piece of shit. Why are you buying it? I'm not buying it because I'm choosing to buy CRV instead of something else, right? It's not like, oh, I'm going to go all in on CRV and I can't buy any BTC or ETH or SOL or whatever it might be. This is just a trade. Right? So it's just a shorter term thing. In terms of signals, all it is a 3-day divergence, right? Triple divergence, 1 low, 2 low, 3 low, 3 higher lows, 3 higher lows, good confluence, take the trade, look for a significant move. 3-day divergences, weekly divergences have the potential to be trend changes. Like, so whenever you get these on the higher time frame, they can represent macro bottoms. I don't really care about that too much for CRV. This is just a trade. I'm just looking at kind of making my money and getting out. But these divergences do not come around very often, certainly from a crypto perspective. It's not very often that we get triple 3-day divergences on markets. Some markets make single 3-day divergences and they still represent very good trades. And there are other markets with single 3-day divergences currently. But that's all it is. It's just a signal-based trade. Yeah. This is always a classic question. Yeah. If this is the triple, then what's the double? And like, I should technically talk about it as a double, because that's what it is. Because there are only actually 2 lows that are diverging, not 3. I only always refer to it as a triple div because there's 3 lows, right? But the first low isn't actually diverging against anything. But yeah. It's just become common that I just refer to it now as the triple. Question in the foundation. So when we get a 3-day RSI and AO div, I know we look for the AO cross and the 50 retest to say the div is played out, but due to this move being a rare setup, I'd imagine more powerful. What are your expectations for a 3-day div play out? I think you've got a couple of things. You've either got the taking of the highs of the movement to the downside. Right, so we take this and we say if it breaks through here, that's a pretty good move. So we would view this entirely as a potential to squeeze shorts to begin with, because it's counter trend. Right? So it's massively counter trend. So we would use this as an opportunity to aggressively be squeezing shorts out of position. Therefore, this area here would be an interesting reaction point, and then basically anywhere into former resistance, right? Or to be resistance, former support. Like, that's what we look for. We're not looking too much at this. We're going to use this first and foremost, and then potentially, for example, if we're going to get let's say we get a 4-hour divergence like this, that would be a good enough point to close this position out. Okay, so if you start to get 4-hour divergences after completing sweeps and trading towards resistances, that's good enough to get out of a position like this. You've also got, one aspect of this that says, well, maybe that's good enough as a sweep. Because we're 80% off the low. Again, as a counter trend move, that's a significant move in the market. It's an 80% move. It's nearly 2x off the lows already. And so, maybe you could also have a consideration that this might be good enough. A 3-day div yielding 80% return, right? You're not going to catch the absolute bottom of this. But still, even from what I've got here, like 30% to here, 35 to the wick, 50 to here, from the low to here, that's the 2x. It's a lot. So Signals taken from price action before we're taking it from indicators. So we're going to use our horizontals. We're going to use our levels of potential sweeping and move in from there. You check stonks. Hood been phenomenal. Has it been strong? Have I put this in order yet? Yeah. Yeah, but it's also been hit pretty hard, right? I mean, it's a good move lower. Man, this here, I'm so hoping this is RKLB. I'm so hoping this is RKLB here. Like, I'm just so, like, I hope that we look at this, like, next year, and we're, like, trading, like, up here. We can be like, oh, remember that when we looked at this, and we were hoping that it was just the same as, Robinhood. That would be the dream here. I guess from the bearish side of things as well, we actually made some quite nasty moves against the weeklies yesterday. We had a very red day yesterday and made some very aggressive moves against these levels. You know, this weekly on Sol. This weekly was looking so comfy when we were up here, kind of trading at the 150s. This weekly looked like this, like, God candle. And sure, it still looks fine. It's still the sweep, and it's still maintained the higher low here, which is great. But they did a lot of work in whittling this back down to, like, a 142 close. And then today on something like Sol as well, the price action doesn't exactly make you feel comfortable. You know, when you look at this move here and the resulting price action, it very much looks as though now this is the bounce and this is going to be continuation. I hope that this is just going to be a retest of this area here. I'm hoping that if the 135s are tagged again, then we just see those buyers stepping in. But we've got the hourly that's fully reset. We've got the 4-hour that's rejecting off this RSI 50. We've got momentum on the bearish side of things. We've got, again, pretty uninspiring bullish price action through here as well. So we just want to see, you know, like this area here hold. We know that this is the daily level for Sol, which as it stands seems to be holding it pretty comfortably. But again, if you kind of mix in my thoughts about maybe the index is topping soon, then this is certainly in a scenario where we're going to be seeing another challenge to this area here. Do we stay bearish until BTC all-time high? Yeah. BTC all-time high or the yearly candle close? What's your bull thesis on RKLB? Seen Cyberprince preach about it nonstop. My bull thesis is just based on the TA. Anything that's in one of those huge higher time frame ranges, especially when it's occurring down in like a lows region, is just super attractive to me. You know, a lot of people remember us discussing that on Link pre-breakout when we were talking about Link at like $6. Like this down here, when you get a huge weekly range that's like this, and it's been going on for 2 years, this is the sort of shit that you wait for to break out, and then you set ridiculously high price targets. Regions like this are so good. What adds a lot from a TA perspective here as well as this. This price action in April is super good for this chart, because this candle actually takes the lows and looks as though it's going to break the support. but then we immediately recover and just, get very aggressive after that. So this looks as though it's kind of like that final shakeout move. And then we get the really good rally. And then we get a positive earnings in here as well, which saves us. So again, if you look at kind of reaction that we've seen in terms of RKLB as well, even in wake of what we've seen recently, it's done a very good job of recovering back to near highs. But yeah, just basically a very, very good monthly, weekly, yearly range down here, and we'd be looking for a breakout from that to the upside. And so it's just on the TA side of things, really. Like another one that's just as an interesting example is actually RIVN as well. Like I know a lot of people like this stock because it trades pretty volatile, but this is another one in terms of potential kind of like build up and then eventual breakout. And I don't know when it's going to happen, but I think when this does move, again, it's going to be one of those markets that probably is pretty aggressive through here. On a monthly perspective as well, we're kind of like putting in divergences all the way down through this region as well. So you can see basically for the last 2 years, we've just been diverging. This is going to be the ALCX example givers again. But, basically that's another market that's quite interesting from a higher time frame perspective if you want to kind of build a bullish case just based on the TA. So stocks closed. Potential for cryptos to have a bit of freedom and fun for the evening. Yeah, have you checked out Bitcoin? Yes. 6 rejections from the range high, similarly massive range. 100% agreed. One of my favorite looking meme charts. By a significant amount. It's a huge range. It's just a huge monthly range. Now, there's chat going on Twitch. Yeah, so I've got the multi-stream chat up so I can see Twitter and Twitch chat. Majority of chat comes from Twitch as well, by the way, not from... not from Twitter. Intimate question. Intimate. Have you outperformed BTC significantly in the last 12 months? Yes. Because I was long MicroStrategy. Yeah, miners are just the same. Like, Mara gonna get jammed after that. Just got to get back inside the weekly zones. Like, it's just not a good situation. All right, so I remember your BTC short from last cycle. Hopefully you don't remember the aftermath. And the major thing was there was a break in market structure from that all-time high range, correct? What makes this situation different? Is it purely something in the chart or mostly halving and FA themed? There's nothing different in the BTC chart, right? We were looking at this like a few weeks back on stream, right? And we were talking about this level here, and we were saying, look, the safety bet on BTC is buying it when it gets above here. Market structure-wise, we're in lower high region here. And this is gross because it could reject, right? This could be the rejection area for BTC through here. It's the lower high. And I'm pretty sure I even made a comment about like, oh, if we look back in like 3 weeks and this is the high, then we're all going to say, fuck, that was the easiest short we could have taken, right? Into fresh lows. So there's nothing different when we get to like the higher time frame perspective through here. The area that you are referencing is this one here. And it was from the daily. So it was just this. Exactly the same thought process. Here's the high, here's the low. Market makes a fresh low against this. It rallies into a lower high. It does its last sweeping through here, shorted here, take profit down here. Same process, right? But this just shows more aggression in terms of the downside swing. Market structure-wise, it's identical in terms of the way that we're doing things through this zone. And again, you can see that kind of, even the market structure here still cooked on the daily. So we still need to establish that clean uptrend again, or that breakout on the higher time frames before we can feel super confident about this. Right, the majority of the bullish stuff is now really kind of because of lower time frame. We can have some discussion about whether or not we'll see some kind of short-term relief or anything like that. From a higher time frame perspective, we're still clearly in a downtrending market, and we need things to change. BTC side, could you still argue that we're just locked in a range potentially? Right, it's a pretty aggressive range. It's a pretty wide range through here. Potentially on the higher time frames, maybe the monthly, you could say, well, the monthly is still fine, right? It just feels worse because we're living each minute and hour of these candles. But from a monthly, if the monthly closes still above here, right, then we'd probably say, well, everything's still fine. I mean, you say no FUD, sir, but could this be the start of the bear market? Technically, we've been going up only for only 2 years. For nearly 2 years, maybe that was supposed to say. In terms of length of time, it doesn't matter too much from kind of whether or not we're going to term it a bull or a bear market. And, the definition for a bear market is going to be different depending on where you look for that. For some people, bear market is going to start when we get weekly downtrending structure. For some people, it's going to start when we're trading below, a 200 moving average. It's going to depend on what your categorization is for a bear market. When it comes to length, I don't think that matters too much. In all honesty, we always give the reference to stocks which have been obviously up only. Whenever you look at markets like this, and again, none of that stuff really matters in terms of length of time, because we get markets that look like this over the course of 20 years. The thing that we have right now is, like I said, because we're all interested in the charts to such a degree that kind of means that we're on the lower time frames, that everything just feels a little bit more kind of aggressive and a little bit more challenging to deal with, I guess. Because we're living all of this, we're forgetting about that actually this is probably okay. This monthly here is probably fine. Again, just for kind of simplicity's sake, it's just one level, and as long as the monthly continues to hold here, then you'd say, well, everything's good, and we'll just carry on. And then maybe we'll look at this chart in 5 years' time, and we'll say, shit, it just went like the Nasdaq. Literally just went like the Nasdaq. And we just do this for the next 5 years. And we have one aggressive sell, and we're like, oh. I think everything always feels worse because of nature of just being on the lower time frame. I took the CRV trade with you, but when BTC starts to drop, I sold it. Do you have any recommendations not to panic for these situations? Yeah, I mean, what are you trading? Are you trading BTC or are you trading CRV? That's always my question to people whenever they dump a market because BTC does something. Which market are you trading? Because the correlation stuff doesn't work. The correlation stuff is such a bad line to take People start selling alts because BTC sells off. But then it's like, and I always give the kind of like the domino effect of the correlation. It's like, well, are you watching the indexes? Because at the moment, BTC is correlated with the indexes. So are you watching the indexes? And then if you're watching the indexes, are you watching the dollar? Because of the correlation there. So like if you're trading CRV, you're trading CRV. Unless something changes on a CRV chart, then that's where your trade is. Now, if you have 20 different alt positions open and BTC starts puking, then maybe you've got a problem. If you're just trying to independently manage a separate position to BTC, what goes on here shouldn't really be any of your concern. We also know that this market produces periods of individual outperformance. And even on a day like today, you have ETH that's still up 4.5% on the day and BTC is barely up 1%. So, you know, these times happen where we get significant outperformance. And that's what's important to make sure we're capturing. So when we take a trade like CRV, we're not bothered about what's going on here. Because one thing that people do is they always attribute like an up or down bias to BTC. So it's like they'll take the CRV trade and they'll say, well, I think CRV looks good and I think BTC goes higher. Or they'll say, well, I won't take the CRV trade because I think BTC is going to go lower. The thing that people always miss in that analysis and interpretation is the fact that BTC can do this. And so actually your alt can do this and BTC is just going to stay here. Your alt's going to have that patch of outperformance. So again, just very much keep in mind, what's the setup you're trading? Why are you trading it? What's your reason for it? Because usually as well, your signal is going to be very different to the signals on BTC. Right? BTC doesn't have a 3-day bull div. It doesn't have, you know, the other signals that we might be taking. So we've got a market that we know is displaying different signals, and therefore we're expecting a different response to that of the general market. Thanks for the heads up on CRV. Turned out very good. A pleasure. You will owe the CBS tax, though. PJ tax. Holy shit. The crab market's got this man all horned up. Where will CLSK get a bounce? Maybe 9s. Breakdown of a weekly range. It's going to be a bad one. It's going to be a bad one. As soon as we dip down here, this is going to be bad. Not a good looking chart now with that breakdown. Everything's good for it, you know, aside from the price action, basically. But it's got significant work to do. It's like 30% just the resistance. Still in the POPCAT short. I've got like a little bit remaining. I love this trade so much. This was such a good trade. And it was such a good trade because like I did a really detailed video in the Haven about why I took this trade and what the thought process was and what the rationale was behind this. And also did like a good discussion on trader mindset and psychology around like this is such a good setup that I really don't need to focus on other markets. I can just play this market. Because if I get the value that I hope to get from this, then it you know, I don't need to search around other markets or add other things to the mix. This is such a good trade that I can just play this for what it is. So I'm very happy that we actually saw some play out. And I got like a really good ad here as well on this sweep of the highs. And then I took profit really well into last night as well down here. So I was scaling out down here, took off like 66% of what was left. So yeah, just very, very happy. It's one of those trades that kind of like everything went to plan and had a pretty smooth ride on. ETH's looking good, man. What's the lowest time frame you take RSI into account? Any? Reaction point for ETH is going to be here, lower time frame. Do you see a scenario where Bitcoin could trade above 70K while crypto stocks could be below weekly levels? Yes. Yeah, I do. Have you dabbled with any NFTs lately? No. I'd like to. But yeah, nothing on that side lately. Any educational resources you recommend for learning about trading psychology? I mean, obviously, I'm going to like self-shill like the Haven or the Foundation if you want like a paid service. There's a ton of stuff in there. And then if you're looking for like just trading psychology in general, I always recommend Trading in the Zone as a good read, or just listen to it as an audiobook. It's probably far easier. Because you can skip out the last bit of Trading in the Zone or the middle bit where it's all about like childhood shit. Like I hated that. It was wank, but the rest of it is great and really helps to kind of give you a good idea about the overall trading mindset. Like the times that you probably beat yourself up when you shouldn't because you actually did the right things. I always make the comparisons to poker as well on here, but you know, like there's sometimes that you just have to call when you're playing poker, and just because you lose the hand, it doesn't mean that you made the wrong decision. And like there's lots of times in trading where we have very similar things. You know, where essentially you've done the right thing, but you just weren't rewarded for it this time. Yeah, NFT Arc was great, man. What's going on with Waddle? Not a lot, man. Just carrying on in the background, getting the team together, getting people posting. But what are we going to do in current conditions? Right, it's rancid out there, which is great. I'm kind of happy on that side of things, but supply side still needs to be sorted, which is in the process of being sorted, which is nice. But apart from that, it's kind of just we're just chilling and doing things pretty relaxed and let the market conditions dominate, really. Sol daily RSI is curling down from the 50. Is it best to stay away? Yeah, I mean, again, that's where we are right now. We were chatting about that a little while ago about this situation here. This is your daily support. With this here, we could easily get back down to this daily support level. The hope would be that we don't. We get some sort of kind of like lower time frame price action that gives us a hold. But yeah, as it stands, it certainly looks like if we were just taking RSI into account and potentially some of the price action, that we're going to get back down to the support level. Yeah, boom model with futures gamble. True, man. Sol ETH false breakout there. I think Don called that, didn't he? Like, the potential for a very small bull div. The downside is you don't have a 3-day div. You would really want that. But this slowdown here in this momentum is pretty good, actually. Like, this slowdown all the way through here is actually really good. I can definitely see this having a pretty aggressive revenge rally through here. That AO slowdown is a very positive sign for it. Yeah, Sol NFTs in 2021 was so fun. Memes this cycle don't come close in terms of entertainment and fun. Yeah, I agree. That, like, the NFT side was great because also it did the classic thing of, you know, a lot of people from their past would have been collectors or something, whether or not that was like trading cards or baseball cards, like whatever your shit was. And so like the NFT side of things really spurred a side of that. And so, you know, when you have things like rarity and you have the potential to get something rare or buy something rare, like it added another element that was, it was a ton of fun to be involved with. Expecting a pump caused by Elon interviewing Trump tonight? Maybe. Good move here from ETH as well. Honestly, this is a really, really nice move back towards that 2700s. Again, lower time frame, as long as we can stick the strength through here and we're not just squeezing against this area here. This is a really attractive move back towards 2700 resistance. Like, if you're around tonight and you're looking at trading, I would definitely keep an eye on ETH. I think there's such an easy potential for that kind of like 7% trade up to 2900. I don't even know if that is 7%. I purely bullshitted that number. That's what I guessed it would be. Holy shit, I'm a fucking god. Jesus. Wonder if they even mention crypto. I mean, potentially. You know, I mean, I guess Musk has the opportunity to. Yeah, he has the opportunity to. So you can see, like, at least our kind of like starting level was right here. For what we're seeing on this side of the reaction. You know, when we said, well, above here is probably a more reactionary point for ETH, given that this is a lot of the grind up. This is 4 hours worth of grinding that we've basically just taken out here. So there's like later shorts that capture some of this round trip here. And so really this is the point that you don't want to see a failure. If you want to see ETH going higher and challenging 2700, this is a really important point to break through. But this is also a point that could absolutely just be part of a short squeeze on the lower time frames before turning around. So again, important regions, any areas like this, especially after you get these little rundowns here, back and forth price action, bit of aggression, squeeze against them. Now we're going to see whether or not ETH's got some real juice. Lots of calls are starting to hype up Doge. Man, I hope there's a paid deal going around for that. Hit me up. Still looking for a Polkadot deal. Damn, that shit was sweet, huh? Yeah, that was a sweet deal. What was it? Was it like 200k a month that they were paying Kappa? Some fucking ridiculous like that. Holy shit. Yeah, send the deal. Send the deal, Polkadot. I'm ready to talk business. Yeah, Blur's a good example of a market that has that strong 3-day divergence here. Single one. All right, not our double or our triple divergence, but yeah, kind of plays in nicely to that thought process. Tensor is another one. So Tensor is another one that you have the potential to look at and see that 3-day divergence. All right, we'll do a couple more minutes and then we'll wrap up for the evening. Brother, we looked at Tia. Is it a good hold right now? I mean, it looks like shit. There's the potential for it to give a decent rally based on the fact momentum slowed down to the lows. But, I mean, in terms of generally, it looks like ass. Yeah, gold looks like it's going to break out of any of its divergences through here. How did Rollbit go today? Meh, lots of back and forth. I think too much today. If I had to like analyze my own performance today, from a crypto side of things, expecting too much, like having too strong a plan in my mind in terms of what I thought was going to happen with price, instead of being reactive enough to the market. So like going into positions being like, this is the position I want to hold until we get a 2700 break on ETH. Versus reacting to the market itself. And then the TradFi side, which is kind of where I'm a little bit more focused for right now, was just one short that I shouldn't have really closed, and then the opening of the other short, which is fine. But yeah, so like overall fine, but yeah, the lower time frame stuff wasn't great today. 487,000 a month they were paying? No way. Biggest lesson learned from last cycle? Well, I mean, like the classic one would be like take profit, because it served me really well. It's like I took a load of profit last cycle. And also, one thing I would say as well is like appreciating that there's other markets out there. I always say this to people, like there's a fucking world of markets out there to trade and to be involved with and to invest in and to like park your money in. You might have made a ton in crypto, you might have made money in crypto, but there's loads of other stuff you can invest in as well. I'm such a big advocate of traditional markets as well as crypto markets. Just because I think so many people forget that traditional markets exist because they start trading crypto. And for a lot of people, these markets are simply too aggressive to handle. Whether or not that's because technically they can't trade them, or psychologically they're too difficult to be involved with. Any other really niche markets you found? I had quite a good phase. I don't know, a couple of years back, maybe 18 months, 2 years ago. Trading mushroom companies. That was quite fun. They went on a wild run. So that was all of the like medical side for shroom usage that started to do very, very well. Started like popping off. Some very, very strong moves there. Then there's that little run where we had like the Beyond Meat run, and we had the cannabis run. Is that like 2021? Could have even been earlier. That's a great time as well. All right, we'll answer this question, and then we'll wrap up for the. I remember banking off MindMed. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so trying to think about the proper way to word this. One thing I really struggle with is, let's say I take 2p risk per trade. I originally planned to take one trade and get in with a size of 2p risk, but later, let's say 3 to 5 more opportunities arise that I would want to trade. Would you still take the 2p risk per trade then, or how would you alter your risk? Sometimes I find myself way over risk strictly because I'm in too many trades. Well, there's like two parts to that. Number one is risk is always like total. And you always have to remember that like risk, when you're talking about things from that perspective, like your risk is actually increasing with each trade that you're taking. So even though you think that you're sticking at that, let's say it's $100 risk, or let's say it's 2%, yeah, your 2% risk, then your risk is actually increasing. If you have a trading account that has $1,000 in it and you lose 2% on one trade, all of those other trades that you've opened up thinking you're taking 2% risk of, right, you're actually taking more because your account balance is now less. Right? So you always have to work out the total of what does it look like should I lose one trade, therefore my 2% risk has to be less, right? Dollar value is going to be less. If I lose 3 trades, it's going to be even less. Right? So the risk always spirals from that perspective. So you have to think about risk as a total, and also do the math to understand what it looks like. If you lose 3 of those trades, then what you think is 2% is probably actually closer to 2.5, 2.7%, right? It's a lot bigger than just your 2%. If you find positions, especially in the world of crypto, it's very... It shouldn't come up very often where you need to take 3 to 5 opportunities within crypto. And the reason for that is because the market is all correlated. So yes, there will be outperformers, but the market is correlated to such an extent that by having exposure in one of those markets, simply put, you get upside exposure regardless of what the rest of the markets are going to be doing, right? So yes, there's going to be one market that goes up 15%, one market that only goes up 5%. But typically speaking, all of them are correlated. Right? So when we have a green day, it's a green day on everything. So you shouldn't really need to be in 3 to 5 positions all in crypto, because they're all essentially the same trade. It's all just one massive long trade to varying degrees of success. So what I would look at trying to do is, if you find a setup, if you find 3 to 5 opportunities, you really want to work with what is your best looking setup. What is the one that has the most potential? What is the one that you're most excited about? What's the one that you have the most confluence with? Right, what's the one that gives you the most kind of technical security that you can take with the trade in order to be able to position for it? And then utilize that one. When it comes to risk, Right? It's not really my place to talk about what risk looks like for you, because that's going to be very different for lots of different people. So your risk on something might be 2%, and you might be happy with that. For other people, they're going to look at you and say, well, 2% risk is for pussies, right? Like, why are you not risking 5%? So the risk side of things is really down to you. When it comes to my side of things, if I've got a setup that I'm really, really happy with, and I've got a lot of technical confluence for it, and the conditions are right for it, then I have to increase the risk. Because if I'm that happy with the position, then I should be sizing up for it. So I should make sure that I'm paid appropriately for how strong I think the position is. And that's where we'll wrap up the stream. How long are you in the game? Too long. All right. Have a wonderful rest of the evening. Keep an eye on ETH. As I said, I think it's a super attractive market, even from like lower time frame trading perspective. We're pushing close to that 2,700 again. It's going to be multiple taps of that region. Looks like a super interesting area to be paying attention to. So keep a check on ETH if you are around and wanting to trade lower time frames tonight. If you're in the higher time frames, maybe even you might keep an eye on ETH. But good luck out there. It's been a bit of a roller coaster day today, back and forth, pretty aggressive price action. Can kind of like beat up a lot of people based on what we've seen today. So reset. Tomorrow's a new day. Well, there's a new opportunity later tonight. We'll see. And I'll be back on Thursday night. So everybody have a wonderful week ahead. Have a wonderful few days, and I will catch up with you on Thursday. And hopefully we'll have some higher crypto prices to discuss. Although I hope we don't, and that my index short is the top of this little leg and we're actually trading